Hello, everybody. This is Gary Matheny. Today's date is July 27th, 2024. This is part 2 of endorsements, my 2024 endorsements. On July 20th, I gave some endorsements which relate to more of the statewide offices, the offices that are more visible and known. And I'll not have to go over it with you in detail because you can see it on my YouTube channel under Liberty Observatory. Or you can find me on Facebook and look at those endorsements. It's date is July 20th, 2024 for my first round of endorsements. My second round of endorsements are local. Have to walk a little gingerly. I know a lot of these people. Not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just participating in the Democrat process. Basically, why do I do what I do? Part of the reason is because I want to put real meaning behind we the people. If we the people is simply a cliche, then it's not going to work. And it hasn't worked as a cliche. Nobody can say that the term we the people has some inherent power that just saying the words means something. You actually have to participate in our democratic process. We, the people, need to govern. If we don't govern ourselves as we, the people, we will get others to govern us. And those other people that govern us may not and probably will not have our best interests at heart. They'll be subject to various lobbying groups. They'll be subject to machine politics. They'll be subject to a wide variety of influences in order to hold, maintain, and get elected. And so we need to govern ourselves, and we, the people, requires a participatory a government. And so trying to further that end, encouraging others to participate in their government, let me just spend a moment backtracking and give you the results of July 20th endorsements, just in case you don't have time to watch the whole video on it. I endorsed for United States Senator Joshua Hawley. He's actually running unopposed in the Republican primary. And that vote, by the way, is August 6, 2024. I endorsed Jay Ashcroft for governor. I endorsed Paul Berry III for lieutenant governor. Full disclosure there, I know his grandpa, not well. We went to high school together, and I haven't seen him since high school. But I know the family's reputation. And the family's reputation is very good. And they're God-fearing people, so and conservative. And so let's go with Paul Berry III on that. For state treasurer, Vivek Malik. And he's a guy that it's almost impossible not to like. He's a good guy. He's worked real hard. All these unclaimed funds that are sitting with the Missouri State Treasurer's Office, he has tried to get out there amongst the people and say, go to our website. You may have unclaimed funds. I have about $20 of unclaimed funds from like a refund on a property tax at some point or whatever, you know what I mean? But I haven't been motivated enough to do the paperwork to get the money. For Attorney General, Will Scharf. Will Scharf is a great guy. I've heard him speak, and appreciate it if you would vote for him for Missouri Attorney General. Now, let's move ahead. We'll move ahead to today's endorsements. And we're going to start with State Senator, District 3. And that's the district that I am in. It is in the southern part of Jefferson County. It is at least takes part of St. Francis County, including me in the Farmington area. It takes a couple of counties to the west of us. I think it stretches as far as Reynolds County. And so, except for southern Jefferson County, it is very much a rural district. That assumes that you consider St. Francis County a rural district, which most of us do. And so, let me just explain to you my understanding of the dynamic here. There's a lot of power in District 3 in the southern part of Jefferson County. And so those of us that live in a more rural part of the district, we sometimes feel left out. For instance, the current office holder, she's not running for re-election. She basically hasn't responded to the constituents, not just myself, but other constituents. They're in a more rural part of the county. Phone calls, notes, personal visits. I've done all three, and she hasn't responded. Well, God bless her, but she's not the one running for election. There's someone else from Jefferson County running for election in that district. She comes out of that Jefferson County group. And they have done a few things which are completely inexplicable to me. For instance, I live in St. Francis Township in St. Francis County. We have a contest for Republican Central Committeemen. Last election cycle, the township voted overwhelmingly for a young man. And yet the Jefferson County clique, if you don't mind, the clique endorsed his opponent. Now, why do they care who the people in Farmington vote for Republican Central Committee? I don't care who the people in Hillsborough vote for. It's none of my business. Let Hillsborough people decide who their committeeman is. And I think Farmington people ought to decide who their committee is that represents St. Francis Township. So I don't get it. I don't get it why they feel like it's so important to involve themselves in our local politics. We don't involve themselves in their politics. So basically, I'm asking you to vote for Mike Henderson for Missouri State Senate, District 3. Mike will represent the whole district. He will not just represent Jefferson County. He'll represent the whole district. So those of you who are out there in rural part of Missouri in District 3 with Mike Henderson, you can rest assured that he will represent you. So now let's move towards state representative, District 117. And 117 is kind of a little bit like a labyrinth. I used to be in a different district, haven't moved, but now I'm in a different district. Dale Wright was my rep. He's running for re-election, but not in my district. So I'm focusing in on my district. And at least part of Farmington is in District 117. And like I said, it's kind of labyrinth with redistricting. You know, you wind up scratching your head, well, how did they come up with that? All of it has political reasons, most of which I don't understand. So anyhow, State Representative District 117, I want to endorse Mike Miller. Mike Miller has been involved in local Republican politics for years and years and years. He's been an office holder. He always has integrity. He is always thoughtful. I don't know him real well, but he comes across as a guy that it seems almost impossible to lie. I'm sure he's told a few lies. Who hasn't over the course of their lifetime? But he comes across as somebody that ain't going to lie to you. And that's a big bonus when it comes to your elected representatives. He has a lot of other fine qualities. He's a veteran. He's been a business owner, small businessman. And he also has touched a nerve that I find responsive, and that is he wants to repeal property taxes for senior citizens. And so let's just think for a moment through that. We have senior citizens on fixed incomes, and then the reassessors come by and they reassess the value of our property, and the housing market is all kind of screwed up with the inflation rate and what our housing values now. Is it going up or going down? I think it's going down because the inflation rate is high, interest rates are high. But anyhow, over the last few years, the assessors come and done reassessments throughout my county. And what about the poor couple on a fixed income that all of a sudden their property taxes went from, let's just say, $2,000 a year to $4,000 a year? And so how do you afford that if you're already on a fixed income, if you already dedicated part of your income to such things as medical care, drugs, and other matters, utilities, etc., other taxes? And so Mike is sensitive to that, and I have my own personal desire to eliminate property taxes in the state of Missouri. I would love to see them just go by the wayside. Well, what about all these other people that need tax money? Let them find another tax handle. You know, other states do other things without taxes. Some states don't have a sales tax, none. Some of them don't have a sales tax on food. Some states don't have a state income tax. Why don't we be a state that doesn't have a property tax? Let's just do away with it. And there's other tax handles out there. If people are desperate enough for money, believe me, they'll find it. They'll be creative. They'll find a way to get your money. All right, so let's next move towards a circuit judge in circuit number 24, Division 1. And that includes Madison County, St. Francis County, Washington County, and St. Genevieve County here in the state of Missouri. And basically, I'm endorsing Bryce Sechrest for that position. Bryce currently is the Associate Circuit Judge. He wants to run for election for Circuit Judge. The reason that I say that primarily is because Bryce has shown a lot of a lot of desire, a lot of dedication, not just in the excellence in handling his job as a judge, but a great deal of desire to be a circuit court judge. Bryce Sechrest, he's committed to being a circuit court judge, doesn't have, to the best of my knowledge, other ambitions to be like an administrative law judge or an appellate court judge. We want a judge that's going to stay around for a while, not somebody that's going to accept appointment right off the bat. So go with Bryce Sechrest. He will do you no harm. He's a good guy, an honest guy, and smart. All right, so let's move ahead to the St. Francis County Sheriff. And in that endorsement, it's going to be Jeff Kreitz. Let me just say at the beginning that our jail in St. Francis County, it has, and I think it's improved a little bit over the last year or two, but previously it had horrendous reputation. Some of the horror stories we heard about what went on in the jail, it made changes, but it still needs to make more changes. I'll give you an example of one of the horror stories. A few years ago, they had a guy that had a medical crisis, but the jailers viewed it as a disciplinary crisis. So instead of getting him medical care, they put him in one of those restraining chairs where he flipped out even further, got into further of a medical crisis, and eventually died. All that within the jail. And so here we are. We've got a jail that is inhabited by a lot of people who have not even yet been convicted of a crime. A lot of them are just accused, and they sit in jail waiting for their trial. And I know we've reformed the bond system in Missouri and in most states where it's easier to get out pending trial, but still, this was before the reform, as my recollection is. Well, regardless, this guy wasn't convicted of a crime. He was waiting his trial. He has a health crisis. They treated a disciplinary crisis, and he dies. We need to have some discernment as to how to operate the jail. And so we need a clean bill. We need a fresh start with sheriff. And so we got to close the door on the past and open the door for the future. And I think the best person for that is Jeff Kreitz. I've met him on several occasions. I've heard him speak on several occasions. Jeff makes a professional appearance and representation. I've heard him speak that he believes in training. In order to get our law enforcement personnel to act appropriately, to observe constitutional rights and other matters relating to decency and respect, they need to be properly trained. And Jeff understands that. Jeff will take the whole part of the job as sheriff. He just won't take the meet and greet part or the part where, you go on television and say how we need to solve a crime down here or whatever, radio, whatever. And so basically, he'll take all aspects of the sheriff's office seriously, including and especially the jail, because that is a hot spot. Oh, by the way, the guy that died had to peel off a couple $1 million to pay his family. So if you don't care about people, how they're treated in jail, just remember that when the jailers screw everything up and somebody dies, taxpayer, write a check. All right, so the next thing that we want to go to is the St. Francis Township Committeeman. And so here we are. I'm kind of waiting for the endorsement from Jefferson County political clique as to who they're going to endorse for this position, because somehow, some way, they're concerned about who Farmington appoints as their local Republican committeeman. Thus far, I haven't heard from them. And so I'm going to go with the incumbent. The incumbent is Chuck Dotson. I know Chuck. Chuck is one of the few politicians that somehow has been able to work with the establishment Republicans and the grassroots Republicans. Well, I tried that for a while. I couldn't. I had to go with the grassroots Republicans because that's where my heart was at. A lot of establishment Republicans, they just want the grassroots to be stepping and fetching. In other words, they want to tell you what to do. And I respond to that by observing that a lot of establishment Republicans are controlled by lobbyists. So they show up at our Lincoln Days dinner, they show up at other events, they throw out a lot of raw meat out there about how conservative they are, and then they go to Jeff City or Washington City and do whatever the hell they want. And so we want a government that's answerable to us. And Chuck is a we the people type guy. he's also has a manner about him that allows him to relate to a wide variety of people and be effective with a wide variety of people. So Chuck Dotson, St. Francis Township in St. Francis County, Republican committeeman. Well, that's all I'm going to do today. So next week, shortly before the election, I'm going to address the constitutional amendments. So if you vote before next week, just tell you that my recommendation is going to be yes on Constitutional Amendment 1 and no on Constitutional Amendment 4. And next week I'll explain my reasons for it, but that will be the Saturday before election. So y'all have a great week. I'm happy to make these endorsements. It comes at some political risk because you're always going to hurt somebody's feeling. I try to tread lightly and not sling mud, but at the same time, I also try and be an honest man. Have a great day. Good to see y'all.